Oh, okay.
condition.
All right. Let's try that again. 3, 2, 1, action. Hey, thank you very much. Well, hopefully that went better. We 3, 2, 1, action twice.
It went better than that nothing we saw.
All right. Was that sounding okay?
Sounds fantastic. You got that original sound button on and all that?
I do have it on now. Okay. Well, I want to touch a little bit on last week and use it for this week and get you involved. And so I think last week the handout, did you get my updated version that I emailed you a little while ago?
I sure did. Looks like this.
That looks like that. Okay. So last week, if you go to the previous page, we talked a lot about this, and this is something that we refer to a lot because this is where a lot of the magic happens when you're playing your music. And then I went to the next page and I broke that up even further, and I broke down those 4 items into virtually every model that is possibly represented in the classes, from our beginners models to our basic or intermediate, all the styles instruments. All right. And what we did is we used it in a song. If you scroll down, there it is. And we used it for a song. Now, we happen to use the song Ave Maria. And you'll notice I didn't say anything about Ave Maria in that particular handout because this really works with any type of ballad that you're using. But this was just one of many ways that I said that people can make an arrangement for a song. And we got a little specific on some of the things that we're doing. Today I want to have a little free form. And the point of today's class, keep this in mind, is if you push any of these buttons whatsoever, you're officially a professional arranger. The only time you're not an arranger is if you just put on the organ, you play one sound and you play it all the way through it and you don't change anything. The minute you change a sound or a preset or one of these buttons we'll talk about, you're an arranger. All right, so now scroll back to the page there. I'm going to leave that page there for a minute. And I want you all to look at that. And I'm going to, this is a slightly revised version. I'll send it out on Saturday. Saturday, when I send out the email, by the way, the email says recorded videos and materials or something to that effect. And I usually send it out on Saturday. And then it has an announcement about the classes that we teach coming up. But if you scroll a little further down on the email, it'll say here's the recorded materials, and here's the, if you click on here, if you click this, you get that, and so forth. So just keep an eye out for that. Now I'm going to leave that up there for a moment and give you time to write this down. I'll also send you a copy this Saturday. However, this is where group participation comes in, because what I want you to do is to tell me which one of these we want to affect. Now you have a button that says drum, and then next to it says drum variation. There's a bass, there's Orchestra Plus, there's Genie, or style / accompaniment, okay? Now, for the purpose of this exercise, you only need to, actually, it doesn't matter which one you tell me. And what we're going to do is randomly select a button, one of these buttons, and then I'm going to have you tell me what it is, and then I'm going to write it up on the board, and then I'm going to play a number or two using that exact same arrangement. So I'm going to get my dry erase marker. Now you guys are looking at that, and I've been talking a while, so I'm hoping that you've thought about it. So anybody can raise their hand or unmute themselves and just pick one of the buttons on that screen. Now I will tell you this, just an FYI, before I begin, I'm going to have the lower, the one at the bottom is going to be off. Okay? So just know that. So besides the last one on the list, I want you to pick any one of the ones, particularly from the Genie through the Alter style button. Okay? So 3, 2, 1, someone tell me a button to press or write down.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're putting them in an order, so we're going to map it out for them. So any of those buttons.
And it doesn't have to go in order, just pick one.
I heard alter style.
Okay, hold on, let me write that down. Alter style. Okay? Oh wait, before I go any further, by the way, you can name one of these more than once too. So someone could say drum and drum twice. Someone could say alter style twice in a row. We can bring it back later, 3 buttons later or whatever, okay? So go ahead, next one.
Orch Plus.
Auto bass 1.
Okay, so I'm going to hit Orch.
It was really loud.
Hold on, Orch Plus. And I'm going to write auto bass, all right? I'm not going to write 1 or 2, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I did write auto bass or bass, okay? Next one.
Genie.
Genie and drums. Okay, so I'm going to put Genie, and then I'm going to write drums.
I can already tell this is going to come out real nice. I can tell.
Okay. I'm in the middle of a class.
Basic.
Oh. Basic. Okay. Now, basic is the same as Genie. So I'm going to write, when I write the word Genie up here, I'm going to write Genie or basic. But I've told you, you can say it more than once. So I'm going to write Genie or basic again.
Drum variation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone can be repeated again, too.
Orch Plus.
Someone say Orch Plus?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Give me one more. I'm running out of room on my dry erase board here.
Genie.
Okay.
I don't have Genie.
Genie or basic. And I'll address it if you don't have one of them.
Basic. Basic.
Okay. Same one. Genie or basic's the same. They're the same function. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop right there. Okay. Now, carefully move my computer so I don't disconnect you. And let's see if I can angle this where it's not a glare. I don't think. All right, well, I can't get rid of the glare. All right.
Looks fine.
Okay, so this one says alter style. You guys can. Now, what I wrote over here, by the way, this over here, this side is what you saw on the screen a few minutes ago. All right? And let me explain what this says. Let me see if the... Oh, this glare is driving me nuts. Okay. Well, okay. I'll just say it. You're going to have to pay
It's
very
not
close
too bad. We can read it.
Okay. So when you put on a rhythm style on your instrument, and when I say you, I mean every one of you, when you put on a rhythm style, I'm going to say 90 some odd percent of the time, the exception to the rule will be if you have a pianist or guitar style. That doesn't always hold true to what I'm telling you. But basically, every full band rhythm style, if you have a pianist or guitarist category, this rule may not apply, but it's pretty close. But any rhythm I put, whether I put on a razzmatazz like I put on, Broadway, Latin, you name it, all right? When you put on any one of those styles, what typically comes on when you put on rhythm preset 0 or style setup 0 or auto setup 0, depending on the model you have, that sets up the instrument. That initial setting that's ideal for that style usually has the Genie and Basic button on, usually has the Orchestra Plus button on, usually has Auto Bass 1 on. If you have an Auto Bass 1 or 2, 1 is generally selected. If you don't have an Auto Bass button, you have a bass volume, that represents an auto bass, okay, and that's always on. Your drums is always on, but typically if you have a drum variation, that's usually off. The alter style is always off. I haven't found one yet that has it, that turns it on style setup 0. And if you do find one that does it, let me know. And then the lower, now the lower here, I'm going to put in parentheses, okay? That's sometimes off, sometimes it's on. So this is not necessarily, I'm going to cover that up, okay? But I'm going to turn it off for this exercise, okay? We could have added it in there at some point, all right? But that's usually on or off, all right? So I wrote it here as off. But this is how it typically defaults, okay? Now, the handout that you saw on the screen, what I'm going to do is I'll update it and tell you what I just told you. I'll type in there what I just told you, okay? Now, what you guys just told me to do is we randomly chose one of these buttons, Alter Style, Orchestra Plus, Auto Bass, Genie, Drums, etc. And here's how this is going to work. If the instrument starts with Auto Bass 1 and I go over and hit Auto Bass, I'm going to choose the alternate one. If you happen to have 2 on, put on a 1, whatever. It doesn't matter. And as I play a number for you, I'm going to call it out as I'm playing the song. I'm going to say alter style, and then I'll pause and I want you to see if you can hear the difference. Now, what I will tell you is that some of these things are going to be subtle. You may catch a slight change, and sometimes they're drastic. Now, before I do that, and I choose an example, when I opened up with When the Saints Go Marching In, if you saw me pressing buttons while I was playing, you probably saw me over here reaching up, doing this stuff. A lot of times when you see one of the players playing at their Zoom musicals, when you've seen them at the store, and they're reaching up, a lot of times they think we're doing this fancy setup. Most of the time, those buttons that I have on the dry erase board are the ones that we're touching. All right? Now, I'm going to just real briefly play the background to this style, not all the way through, and I just wanted you to hear some of the differences. So here is the razzmatazz as it was when I was playing it. All right? Now, I'm just going to randomly hit some of these buttons. Turn off Orchestra Plus. Listen to the difference. Drum variation. Alter style. Auto Bass 2. Hear the bass change a little bit. Drum variation off. Auto Bass 1. Alter style off. Auto Bass 2. Whoa, that changed a lot. Orch Plus back on. So as you can hear, hopefully, as I was changing those buttons, sometimes they were drastic, sometimes the bass didn't change much, and then at one point the bass just kind of did this nice swinging walking bass, and then the drummers changed. So that's all I was doing when I was playing the song. So if you saw me reaching up, pushing stuff over here, those were the buttons I was pushing. Now, I'm going to bring it back over to the screen, or the dry erase board, sorry. Keep my thumb on my Ethernet cable. Okay. And I'm going to leave it right there. And as I select a style, I'm going to push these buttons that you told me to do. And this is the arrangement that you would have given me. Now, if this doesn't work out, whoever told me these buttons, it's your fault.
So you're going to play those in order, right?
I'm going to play that in order.
Perfect.
I'm going to pick a style, and as I'm playing, I'll ease back the volume a little bit so you can hear me talking over, what have you. But I'm going to say alter style, and then I'll stop playing it so you could hear the change in the, see if you could hear the change. Let's see, what should I do? What should I do? Just a closer walk with E.
Yeah,
What did I do yesterday that worked out?
you did
nicely?
that one and it turned out really, really nice.
Oh, did it? Okay, so I'm going to go.
I think this group's going to come out a little bit better, though, actually.
We got a better arranging group today? Uh-oh, I'm recording,
Yeah.
so I got to be careful.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We'll cut this part out.
What style did I use yesterday? It wasn't Nolan's pianist. It was one of the swing
I
styles.
believe you used Smooth Foxtrot.
Oh, yes, that's right. I was blown away by that option. All right. So Smooth Foxtrot is a style that you give them a history lesson while I'm looking for it. There it is. Was a style that was designed for the song Begin to Begin. And the original arrangement was from who?
Okay, so the original artist who did that song was Artie Shaw, an Artie Shaw song. And what's interesting is that's what I always told people. So this Smooth Foxtrot style is something by Artie Shaw. And I got corrected by the guy who made that rhythm style, Bill Curry. And he said, actually, he based it off of the Benny Goodman rendition of the Artie Shaw song. So basically you hear Benny Goodman's clarinet and not Artie Shaw. So
Yeah, so
that's my
now
history.
here's one little extra little touch I'm going to do in this, gang. Sound like Paul Schaub. So before I write this up here, if you happen to have this style, now again, the purpose of this exercise has really to do with the style we're using, and it has more to do with using the buttons. But for those of you who have this, here's how it usually comes up when I select it. It comes up at a tempo of 140 with the introduction 1, and it has this nice clarinet, okay, which is perfect for that. And here's the introduction. This is the arrangement that Sean just said. Okay, so if I were to continue playing that, that's a perfect arrangement for that song. Now, that was using intro 1. Intro 1 is typically the signature style introduction. But what I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to add one little thing up here, and I'm going to put intro 2. Okay? So it's going to sound a little different, and I'm going to play the song Just a Closer Walk with E. And so since I'm doing that, I want to play the song at a tempo that I like it at, and I kind of like playing it around the 120 tempo range, kind of like the way Pete Fountain did it. Since I'm hearing a clarinet, I'm going to try to do that. Now, this is the initial setup. Again, this time, I'm going to start off with intro 2, and as I'm playing, I'll call out the buttons that you told me to press. So here we go. the way, that's the initial setup. Now what I'm going to do is push ultra style. That's the first one on the list there. Here we go. Wow, that was a drastic change. Now before I go on, here's with the ultra style off, and here's with it on, that first button that you told me to press. Now listen closely. I'm going to turn the Orchestra Plus button is on already, so when I press it, I'm going to turn it off. Now as a result, it turned off a lot of those band members. I have auto bass 1 on right now, and someone told me to press an auto bass, so I'm going to do the number 2. Ooh, kind of gives us what a 1 and a 5 pattern type. Now, it says Genie or Basic. Now, since Genie or Basic is on, I'm going to press it, meaning I'm going to turn it off. Drums, so I'll do a drum variation. So I had Genie or Basic. I have it off now, so I'm going to turn it back on. And the drum variation, I pressed it earlier, and I'm going to push it again, so I'm going to turn it off. And then I'm going to put on Orchestra Plus. Off. I'm going to use the ending too. So as I was playing that, I was trying to do it so that when I pressed the button, you could hear the change. In some of these cases, it really changed drastically. I hope you could hear that as I was doing it. The point of this is actually endless. There is no end to this. You can put the lower, you can put drum variation, auto bass. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. I don't have an instrument like the Liberty that he was playing. I have a smaller instrument or a medium-sized instrument. That's okay. And as an example, I'm going to carefully move the cart over here. Here's an instrument called the Lowry Odyssey. I had fun demonstrating this one this week to some students. And I'm just going to put on the very first button, Big Band. And I'm going to actually use as many of these buttons, and I don't have every one of these. I don't have Ultra Style. I have the Orchestra Plus and the Genie. And some of the other buttons. So I don't have them all. If the answer, if I don't have it, is just skip to the next button. You look on your instrument, you go, do I have the Genie or the Basic? Do I have the Orchestra Plus? Do I have an auto bass? Do I have a drum or drum variation? Do I have an ultra style? You have a lower. A lower I didn't use in this, but you can turn it on or off. And while you're playing, just kind of take a piece of paper and write down the order of some of this, a random order, and then try it out and see what happens. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Here's what typically comes up with this style. And for the sake of it, I'm going to put on a Big Band 1 category, which is the trombone. All right. And we'll start off with the initial setup. Here we go. Now, I'm going to touch the Orchestra Plus button. Ooh, that was a change. Now, I don't have an auto bass 1 or 2. I only have 1. If I touch it, I'm going to lose the bass. So I'm going to skip that, and I'll go to the next one, Genie. Now we have just a drum and a bass, 2-piece, along with then I'm going to go to the Genie again. And then the Orchestra Plus. So there was an example that I used most of the buttons, and if you heard, in some cases we brought it down to a 3-piece. In some cases there was a 2-piece, and then onward, and I'm carefully moving my card over. Let's see, I'll stop right there. Same thing here. Now, there's something pretty clever that you can probably use for those of you who have the Easy series, particularly the Easy 10. And actually, this works on most models that have these presets. So, and I know that Sean has referred to this. Many of us refer to these presets, and there's sort of a systematical way that they're designed. And what'll happen is let's see here. I'll use the Frank and the Count style that's on there. And what comes up is the style setup, of course, and I'm going to bring it down to 120. I'll play a little bit of the Just a Closer Walk with E. And I'm going to use, again, some of those same buttons that you told me to press. I'm going to use what I have. But there's one extra little trick in here to keep in mind. Number 1 and 2, style setup, gives us a style like it doesn't have an Orchestra Plus. Now let me clarify that so people understand. We had a question yesterday. A student said they had a fanfare, they have a button, or Journey, they have a button that says Orchestra Plus, but they couldn't find the one that said Genie or Basic. And for those of you who have that, make note, when you press the Orchestra Plus button off, it reverts to a Basic. Okay? Now on here, I can't get any closer without yanking cords and stuff. On here, there's a style or a comp that a lot of you are familiar with on the Easy or SD series. Okay? So there's no Orchestra Plus or Basic. So when you initially turn on the style, what I told you is it's always on, even if you don't have those buttons there. That's the way the style comes up. Listen to this big band. That's a lot of musicians. Listen, Bill, that's a lot of musicians there. Now watch what happens when I press Style Setup 1. I'm going to do it while it's on with the full position, the full band position. Oops, I accidentally played by rear. Let me do that again. All right, now listen as I do the fill in. It's going to be a lot of musicians in there. Okay, now I'm going to push number 1 or 2. Watch what happens to the band. There's not a lot of musicians in there. So the point is, if you push style 1, setup 1 or 2, it will deactivate internally the Orchestra Plus button. So even though you don't have it, that's another way to do that. It's kind of a fun little thing you can do. On the larger models that have an actual Genie or Basic and an Orchestra Plus, when you do that, you'll actually see the Genie Orchestra Plus turn off. You can always turn it back on. So, doing this arrangement up here, I'm going to use that preset when I'm doing it. So, I'll start off with the initial one.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm going to put the music up so they can kind of follow along, and then when you press the button, they can kind of listen for when the change comes in there. Just say when you press the button.
Okay, because we had some people that wanted to know, when do I make the changes?
Yeah.
And my answer was, well, whenever you feel like it. But there is sometime a little bit of a systematical thing that I do. But go ahead and put the music up. You got Just a Closer Walk with E? Okay. I'm just going to play the song, and you can maybe see where I might have made the change. Here we go. Start off with the initial. Made the change. So in essence, what I did is I used 1 and 2 to turn on and off my Orchestra Plus button. And then I hit the other setups in there. And what happened is not only did the arrangement change, however, the sounds changed in the melody as well. So I think it's safe to say, Sean, that this group came up with a pretty nice arrangement for me today.
I think they should
Wow.
unmute themselves and give themselves a hand there.
Yeah, let's give yourselves a round of applause, everybody. Now, when I close off with the song today, when we close out, I'm going to actually use this exact same arrangement to play another song, and we have a lot of people that. Why don't you put the other song up there, and I'll tell them a little bit about it before I play it. Here's a famous song, Mary Ann. Now I'm looking at some of the faces. I can see it already. Now some of you are newer at this, and this is actually a great song because it's easy. Now when I play the song, by the way, this is kind of a little bonus I added yesterday. If you want to take a song like a Mary Ann, when Sean had Just a Closer Walk with E up, you noticed there was a simple CFG song in there, chord song. Spanish Eyes is like that. It's got a lot of just CF and G chords. The Larry Black Songbook has a lot of those. A lot of the Larry Magic course books have just real simple songs that are, okay? And there's something I learned a long time ago by one of our instructors, and he called it married chords. So an easy play, since a lot of the songs are written in the key of C, you can have a little fun with this. And if you want to take a simple song, sometimes we find a song that's in hard, difficult music, we can't find an easy play, and sometimes the opposite happens. So what you can do here for this song like this is, if you ever have a song like this, you want to give it a little bit more personality with chords, but nothing too complex. What you do is you replace the G chord with a D minor or D minor 7th chord. And it looks like he's moving his mouse around, so he might type that in. Ooh, look at that. He took the D minor. And by the way, the 7th is optional, okay? Or just even a simple D minor. And for those of you who are, learning your 2 fingers, a D minor in easy play is the note plus the 3rd note up. So it would be D. The next 3 notes is E flat, E, F. So D and F, okay? But here's the trick, and you'll notice that Sean is putting something on the screen. If you ever want to do this, and you have a song that's got a lot of C, F, and G chords in it, when you get to the G chord, this works with the G. You replace it with a D minor, but you must bring back the G or G7, okay? 7th chords are optional in easy play. Remember that. Because if you're doing a D minor, that's D and F. If you're doing a D minor 7th, you have to play 3 notes. And we don't want newer students thinking, oh my God, this is too hard. You don't have to. And if you don't, the song will sound fine. But for those of you who finally learned some of those 2-finger chords and what have you, there you go. So the trick is, and before I actually play the song, I'll do it with just a regular bossa nova here. So here is the way it's usually the G chord. That's without changing the chords. I'm going to turn up the chord a little bit. G chord, just staying on it. Now what I'm going to do is play it the way Sean has it up on the screen and see if you can listen just for a slight little change. Here we go. D minor. Hopefully you could hear the difference. So if you ever have a piece of music and you want to get creative with the chords, basic chord changes, that's the way you do it. Just the one thing that I say repeatedly is if you're going to replace a G chord with a D minor or a D minor 7th, always bring back the G chord. That's the most important thing to keep in mind when you're doing this, okay? So the other thing you're going to hear before I play the song, we're going to give you a couple little tips on the YouTube channel, but the other thing you're going to hear at the end of this song, and I'm going to save it for a bonus someday, but at the very end of the song, when I play it, it's going to sound something like this. I'm going to record it, and we'll see if you could figure it out. It'd be kind of like when I put it up on the YouTube, and I record it, and you'll see my fingers. You'll see if you can have some fun figuring out that chord progression. All right? It's not necessary, but it's just a little extra fun thing I do. So before I play the song and we're going to do a couple announcements. But one thing that Sean wanted to do is take a minute and just explain. We have a lot of people that we tell every week, we recorded this, we put it on YouTube. Sometimes they get it, they get notified, or sometimes they wait for the email. And the email is, as it's getting a little bit overwhelming, because as all the stores are doing their classes, they're all recording them. And basically, I'm now getting 4, 5, 6 classes a day that I have to upload. So it takes a little bit of time. And so for the time being, I'm emailing you links, but if you don't want to wait till Saturday, you can go to our YouTube. So go ahead, Sean, and show that, and I'll set up for the...
Yeah, real quick, David, do you have a question there?
Yes.
A D minor is a D and an F. But what is a D minor 7?
Okay,
Robert?
so the seventh chord, an easy play, is whatever the note is and 2 notes down. Now, when I say 2 notes down, I'm talking a half step. So a D seventh would be D, and then the next 2 notes down is a C sharp C, so D and C. So basically what you're doing is you're combining both functions. So a D minor is D and an F, a D7 is D and C. So it's D, or actually C, D, and F.
Aha!
D, yeah, D, F, and
Got
C.
it. Thank you.
Okay? So it's basically you're combining the operation. So a lot of people know, oh, I know how to do a G7th. You take G and the next 2 notes down is an F. What if it's a G minor 7th? Well, then you figure out what the minor is and the 7th and you put them together. It's a 3-note easy play versus a 4-note. So that's why I say several times, if you're new at this and you're doing easy play and you're having a hard time with it, don't get caught up on all the extra chords. I don't want someone to feel like, because every now and then we have a newer student that's just learning C, F, and G, okay? But that's how you do that. Any other questions? Okay.
See, I had a student say something funny to me the other day, because we're always saying, you know, keep your hand by the C, F, and G, C, F, and G. And they said, I get the C and F, but why does everybody have an issue with that G chord? The F and G? You know, that's an inappropriate joke probably. But anyway, so yeah, the F and G chord. Anyway, you're all probably shaking your heads at that.
I get it. Some of you are probably going, oh, what the?
I was too at the time. It was a student. They said that, and I didn't get it. I was like, wait, what? What's wrong with that G chord? Anyway, so I was going to go over a couple things. I've had a lot of people say, how do I get to that YouTube channel you keep talking about? And not only that, you say to subscribe. How do we do that? Well, I'll just explain it for you real quick. Let me share the screen here and show you this. If you want to subscribe to it, that's where you get kind of notified either on your phone or, you know, computer, and it'll tell you actually when we upload videos, and you can go back and watch past concerts and past classes, and it's just awesome. But to subscribe, you might have to do something called sign in, because some people say, I've seen the YouTube channel, but how do I subscribe to it? The only way to do that, you have to sign into it. So it's really easy. If you have a Gmail account, it's the same thing. So if you type in your email address and password for your Gmail, that's how you get in there. It's under the same thing. If you don't have a Gmail address, maybe you have an AOL or I don't know, CompuServe. Does that exist anymore? I don't think so. But it may be different. You may have to create. I see people waving. You've got CompuServe or something. Neat. But you may have to create an account. But it's super easy. You just click on that sign in thing and just type in a name and password. And if you're anything like me, I use the same password for every darn account I have, which I'm sure is a terrible idea. So I'm going to scroll down here. That's just how to sign in. But when you are signed in, you should see something like this. When you see our web page, if you type in, well, actually, let me go up a little more. If you do this search thing here, when you're on youtube.com, that's all you have to type in, youtube.com on your internet thingy. And it'll say search, and you type in Fletcher Music Centers. And at this point, you should probably all know how to spell that, right? So you just type that in, and then it should come up with us first. So we'll look like this. We won't be a beautiful young woman. We'll just be a logo that says Fletcher Music Centers. And all you do is hit subscribe, and that is it. And I think Robert mentioned too, the other way you can do that, if you can see, I don't know if you could see my mouse, but I'm typing it in here. You can do youtube.com and then /Fletcher Music Centers. That's kind of a shortcut. It'll just take you right to us rather than having to search it. So it'll come up like this, and the internet's super slow here. It looks different for you. For us, it says customized channel because we own this. We can mess around with it. But for you, right there where the mouse is, right around here, it should say subscribe. So should be easy enough, right? So we get that asked a lot, just how do I do it? So we figured we'd take a second and just kind of run through it just so you all get an idea, step by step. If you have any questions, just call us or email Robert, bug him. He loves getting emails, right? He's nodding.
Okay. The other thing I do want to point out, if you're on that YouTube channel and you go to what's called playlists, there is one thing that some people will go to that playlist and they'll make this mistake, and I do want to show that, and I'm going to play the song. Let me just do a new tab. Okay. So I'm going to new window. Okay. All right, so I'm going to screen share real quickly that, let me just see, hopefully I picked the right one here. Give me a minute, folks. All right, Sean, can you bring up your internet again? Oh, wait, here we go. No, never mind. All right, so what can you see there? No, is that the right one?
Nothing yet. It's going slow for me. There we go.
Do you see it?
Yep.
Okay, all right, so when you go to youtube.com/Fletcher Music Centers,
Faster typer than me.
okay, so when you get to this page, if it gets there, it's working on it. Okay, so there's this thing here called playlists. You'll see all these playlists. The ones that we do Wednesday and Thursday is this variety virtual music class. Usually when I give you a link, it brings you right to that class. But if you ever want to go back to any one of these, what some people make the mistake, they go, oh, well, let's see here. And then they click here. Here it makes sense, play. But if you click here, it's going to play all of those videos. What you do is you click where it says View Full Playlist. And when you click on it, it'll give you all of the sessions that we've recorded and put it up. And they're all numbered, so you know that there's something different, okay? So if I keep going down, there's 16, there's 17 from yesterday, okay? So that way you can go into an individual playlist and go back and see which ones, and they're all labeled. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm playing, I might call it out if I can reach over, and I'm going to call out the buttons that you guys did, and I'm going to play Marianne with a mambo using the arrangement that you gave me. So here we go. Alter style. Ooh. Orch Plus. Auto bass. Genie Orch Plus. Genie, rather. Drum variation. Ooh. Where am I? Genie or basic? Turn it back on. Drum variation. Orch Plus. Here we go. Thank you. Hold the applause. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, yes, thank you, thank you.
Drum
Well,
variation. That one, that's great.
We hope you enjoyed the class today. And we have someone else will be on next week, so make sure to join us. This couple quick things before I go. Next Friday, we're going to have on August 7th, 7 artists, 1 per store, is going to play at our birthday celebration concert, and it will be emceed by the owner of Fletcher Music Center's John Riley. So he's going to be there throughout the entire show, introducing everyone and what have you, and he's got some important messages and thank yous and what have you, so we look forward to seeing you. And this Friday we have Don Casanova and Randy Nemi, who we've never had on a Zoom musical, and it's rare that we get to have them perform for any of the stores, whether except for the villages, because that's where they're there, and they stay pretty busy doing that. So anyway, that's coming up real soon, and we've got a lot of exciting things. Stay tuned in with the email, what have you. I want to say thank you so much, and stay safe, keep playing music, and toodaloo.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job,
Thank
Robert.
you.
Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good job, Roger. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too, Sean. Thanks for the help.
Yeah. of
Thank
course.
you,
Thank
Robert.
you.
You too, Sean.
Thank you. That was very good.
Thank you.
Make sure to join those Zoom concerts. We're going to try breaking some records. So.
You're the
All
best,
right.
Sean.
Yeah.